first time I really came across the word even was in sobriety. Hello and good evening. I'm just going to ask Sarah to join us. Good evening. Welcome to our Sunday Night Live, which apologies we missed last week because I was out with family volunteering at a motocross thing. Yay, here's Sarah. What?
Hi!
Hey!
Smooth! So
So
smooth!
smooth. It's amazing. How are you doing?
Great, thank you.
Good.
How are you?
I'm good. Sun's out and that's just a
Beautiful,
complete
right?
game changer.
It's amazing.
Feels, it's like it completely changes everything, right?
Yeah,
It's like
totally.
how's your week been?
Yep, good. I've finished these holidays. I've got 2 weeks
Yeah.
off the main job. So, woohoo! It's
Yeah,
great.
fantastic. What are you going to be doing for the Easter holidays?
Not very
Uh,
much. It's
yeah,
beautiful. Yeah, I've got a bit of work to do for my other jobs, but yeah, it's all good.
good. Yeah, we've broken up now for 2 weeks too.
Amazing.
I love it. Okay, so this evening it doesn't feel like the evening, does it, now that the days are longer? This afternoon, we're going to be talking a little bit about one of my favourite things
Yep.
when it comes, just in life. I think they're super important in sobriety, but actually just in life in general are boundaries, right? Setting boundaries. Um, first, first time I really came across the word even was in sobriety. And for those of you that know my story, know that Melissa Urban had a massive impact on my sobriety when I started doing a lot around food and reading about how food can impact our health. And it led me to taking a break from alcohol and then really looking at the benefits. Now, anyone that follows Melissa Urban knows that she has a massive kind of account and she's written a book around boundaries, the Book of Boundaries for anyone. And way before the book,
Really?
she really talked a lot about boundaries and setting boundaries. And for anyone that hasn't read the book, Melissa talks about setting boundaries in really helping her find freedom after when she was in recovery for addiction, right? Of that she wanted to carry on her life. And she realized if she didn't start to set boundaries with people, then she would keep very isolated. So boundaries are not meant to destroy relationships. They're not meant to keep us isolated. They're meant to do the exact opposite. They're meant to keep us safe, especially in sobriety and in recovery. And they're meant to open the world up for us. And also they're meant to protect relationships, right? Like they set the stage for what we want our relationships to look like,
Yep.
which is really important. And for me,
Vital.
my relationships completely shifted when I stepped into sobriety. B, I realised what boundaries looked like because I was used to people pleasing and making sure that I was everything to everybody, which never really got me very far because everyone just got pissed off because I wasn't enough to anybody. So then, started setting boundaries. So, Sarah, tell me a little bit about your experience with boundaries before and after in sobriety.
Before, I had none.
Okay.
Well, no, that's not true. I had some, but I wasn't. I had boundaries that I had not set. They were just kind of given to me, or I guess assumed boundaries. And I was just forever apologising. And I sat the other day and I thought, oh my God, I've stopped apologising. I've stopped saying sorry, and I didn't realise that was really a thing. And people used to say it to me, it's like, stop saying sorry. I was like, oh, sorry. sorry for saying sorry. And then I sat the other day and I was like, not that I'm not apologizing. If I've done something wrong, I'll apologise. But I'm not just apologising for my mere existence or the fact that, just for
Yeah.
being. So for me, the boundary setting has been mostly, it's been about setting boundaries for myself. Mostly. I mean, it's all about setting boundaries for myself, right? But then other people.
Sobriety in itself is setting a boundary for ourselves.
Boundary,
Yeah,
yeah, absolutely.
and sticking
Yeah,
to it. This is the boundaries that I no longer drink.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely. But I think before I would get myself into situations where I was trying to do so many things and be, like you say, be everything to everybody and taking on loads and loads and loads of other people's personal shit that wasn't, that wasn't mine, and being so overwhelmed that I needed to go out and get hammered just to be, just to not feel so
yeah,
overwhelmed, and then not being able to keep up with it, and then feeling like I was failing, and then feeling regret and shame, and
yeah,
on and on, that cycle, that kind of horrible spiral. Um, and I have had, it's been difficult. It's been difficult to kind of push back, and I have had to be quite deliberate about that,
yeah,
because I think the biggest boundary I think the most difficult conscious boundary that I had set was when one of my best friends came back from traveling in Africa, and he and I always used to go out. I mean, we used to refer to our nights out as a rampage. We were the male and female
yeah,
versions of each other. We were absolutely terrifying, I'm sure, to most people. And although we had lots and lots of fun, but he said, "Can I come and sleep on your sofa?" And at that point, it was last summer,
yeah,
so I was kind of 8 months into sobriety, and he before he'd left, he had given up his flat, so he was coming back to be homeless. And I said, and it really, I was like, oh fuck, God, oh my God. And I said to him, I said, no, you can't, because it will put my sobriety at
yeah,
risk, because he was still caning it. And there was one occasion when he messaged me and said, "Are you in? I need to have a cup of tea," because it's terrible. I felt so bad. I felt so bad. I was standing in the park for 5 hours, and it was about 11 o'clock in the morning, and it wasn't nice weather. And I said, "You sure you can come for a cup? Of course, come and have a cup of tea and some breakfast." And then when he was here, he said, "Can I stay on the sofa?" I said, "No." And he said, "But I haven't got nowhere else to go." I said, "No, I'm really, really sorry, but you gave up. You gave up your flat before you left. You made those
yeah,
decisions. You know, wouldn't it be great if I could just put everything in the fucking bucket and go to
yeah,
Africa and stay there for a year and a half? Wow, wouldn't that be an
yeah,
amazing little adventure?" Um, and I, I think it shocked him. I think it shocked him a lot.
yeah. Well, of course, it it tends to, the people who we don't need to set boundaries with will accept our boundaries quite happily. Like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. The people who have some kind of reaction are generally the ones who we really need to set them with.
yeah,
And it's really unexpected when we've been the go-to yes person, solution led person, and then we're saying, actually, no, that doesn't suit me.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I think a lot of my friendships have changed, because a lot of my friendships were entrenched in partying.
So tell me how that relationship is adapted, though. Like, how did that get
So
through
that's
that?
fine. He's gone back to Africa, but it's fine. I mean, I knew our friendship would change, because it really was based on
Yeah,
going out. So we've still met up. I've gone to the pub, but there's nothing more to it than that. There's not. It hasn't been able to develop past. Yeah, okay, I'll come to the pub whilst you drink Guinness and I drink a Coke, or a zero beer. Um, but that's fine.
yeah. So actually going back to that book, right, the book of boundaries, I remember the first part where she's describing the first time she realized that she needed to set boundaries. And that was that she did want to, that she had come out of a recovery thing, come out of like a rehab center, I believe, seem to remember, and that she had relapsed because, putting herself back into an environment where she was being offered drugs, and just wasn't at a point that that was something that was easy to navigate. And then she realized, actually, to sustain these relationships, if they are worth it, I need to set some boundaries. And some people will kind of adapt their relationship with you and some people won't. So it's that
Yeah.
kind of thing of like, I would love to see you. And the boundaries, again, is not about trying to change anybody else,
No,
is it? It's about like,
absolutely.
this is what I can accept and this is what I can't. So I would love to see you. I can't have anyone offering me drink, or I can't have,
Yeah.
like, I'm not going to drink. Please don't offer it to me. Please don't make it a big deal. Please, like,
Yeah.
and or I would love to see you. Let's go for a coffee instead. I'd love
Yeah.
to see you. Can we go for a walk instead? And some people will adapt with you and feel like the
Yeah.
relationship is worth it, and some people will not. And then it's like
Yeah.
those relationships kind of fall by the
Yeah.
wayside because, as you say, really, what do we have in common with people like that?
Yeah. And I think what's interesting too about some friendships is even if they weren't entrenched in partying, it's the when I was partying, I was much more able to accept other people's emotional loads and other people's chaos. And since I've been sober, actually, and I find these things quite difficult to say still. I'm still kind of, I still feel like I've got to apologize to myself and other people for saying it. But like, my peace is so absolutely precious.
Yeah.
Even when I think back to how chaotic my thinking was and everything was, even if I didn't appear to be chaotic, but my brain was going at 1,000 miles an hour and all those things. And I have found serenity, which is a beautiful thing. And having anybody coming to me with their emotional load or their chaos, even if it's temporarily sober chaos, I don't want it. I don't have space
Yeah.
for it. I just don't have space for it. Um, I don't have space to talk about it. I don't have space to absorb it. I don't have space to let it go over my head. I don't have space to put it in one ear out the other. I just don't want it.
Okay, so I think this is something really important, right? Because this is a double-edged thing. That one, if we are the person that is feeling like we need someone to lean on and we need that support, first of all, asking for permission. Because how many people offload on you and never ask permission? Do you have capacity to hear me out?
Mm,
Do you have time? Do you have space? Do
yeah,
you have the mental capacity? Do you have the emotional resistance, like resilience at the moment, to be able to hold space for me? And if somebody says, actually, no, I don't, knowing that that isn't actually anything personal, that is purely somebody protecting their peace, which we all like. Wouldn't it be a lovely world actually if we all protected our peace rather than
yeah,
feeling like we should hold space for somebody regardless
yeah,
of what we're going on? And it's always an
yeah.
interesting thing because people tend to go to the people who seem the strong one, right? Like, oh well,
Absolutely.
it looks like
Yeah,
you can carry a load, so I will
yeah,
offload everything. And it's actually, people can only manage a certain amount. Doesn't matter how
yeah,
strong you are.
yeah, absolutely. And, the fact that in sobriety, you, I, we are facing up to so many things that previously we numbed ourselves to not face. That is a whole load of emotional load, a whole load of stuff. And those things, I mean, my life is 1,000 and I mean more, percent better without alcohol in it. I, I cannot explain, how much better it is. I've been having a bit of stuff going on recently, and I went to at the end of term, so on Friday, like my colleagues went out. We went out to a pub, and at the start of last week, I was like struggling quite a lot with anxiety and feeling quite overwhelmed. And I sat in that pub, and I just sat around watching all of my colleagues drink, and I was like, right now, I could very easily pick up a pint and drink it because I wanted to feel the relief they thought they were feeling
Mm-hmm.
from that drink. And I sat there and had the 3 0 Peronis, which actually aren't very nice. But I sat there and I didn't want, it wasn't that I wanted it. I wanted to feel the relief that they were feeling. One, because it was the end of term. Two, because I'd had a really difficult week. And my mind was telling me, you will feel relief. I knew I wouldn't feel relief. I absolutely knew that. But it goes to show how vulnerable I still am, we still
Yeah.
are, that our subconscious takes us back to those
Yeah.
times very, very easily. So even though my boundary is, I'm just going to process these really difficult thoughts and feelings, and I'm going to take that feeling of anxiety and overwhelm, and I'm going to sit with it. I know consciously that's what I have to do. I know that.
Yeah.
And I know that I have to look at the things I can control and let go of the things that I can't, and all those things. And I know that every morning when I walk to work with my music in my ears, very carefully chosen music, and when I choose to take my walk home across the park after work to dispel the day's difficulties, I know those are the
Yeah.
things I have to do. And yet in that moment in the pub, I sat there and I thought, I didn't think. My mind told me, I want that sense of
Yeah.
relief. And I think if I was still busying myself with other people's emotional loads and I was still involved in other people's chaos. In that pub, I was involved in there's a woman there who drinks so much. She drinks so much, and someone else was saying, you shouldn't drink so much. And I was like, shhoop, shhoop. Just keep quiet, just keep quiet. And we were talking about occasions when people had been pissed, and one of my colleagues said to me, is that why you don't drink anymore? And I was like, listen, I've got 10,000
Yeah.
t-shirts. I have 10,000 t-shirts. And I think if I hadn't set the boundary of taking myself outside of other people's existence in their own lack of doing,
Yeah.
I would very easily fall back in.
So there's two questions here. First of all, how do you say no to people when you don't have capacity for it? And it's really important for people to understand that stress is a massive trigger
Massive.
in reoccurrence, or just in drinking in general, but certainly in reoccurrence when we've stopped, when we're abstinent, when we're not drinking. So managing our stress means having the awareness that we do not take anybody else's stress on. It is like, okay, in my immediate world, in my immediate life, how do I manage this? What's my responsibility? What's somebody else's? And when I don't have capacity for it, I know that to ensure that I have capacity for my own stress, and stress can be good things as well as bad things. Like, I know that this is going to keep me safe in my sobriety. But it's incredibly difficult when we're not used to saying no to people to do that. So how do you go
Yeah.
about saying no to people?
With some relationships, I've just taken a step back
Okay.
because I know what the nature of that relationship is, and I know what the expectations of me are in that relationship. So in those relationships, I've just taken a step back, and I've put a boundary in that I'm no longer accessible in that
Okay.
way.
And
Simple.
for those relationships that you want to protect and you still want to be a part of, how do you say no to those that you love and care about?
I just say no. I just say, I'm really sorry, but I've got too much on at the moment. Someone messaged me the other day and said, I haven't seen you for ages. Do you want to go for a coffee? And I was like, I'd love to go for a coffee. I've got an hour. And
Yeah.
it was really lovely. Had a great time.
It's
But I was very clear.
it's interesting because one thing that I've moved towards is not apologizing. Okay.
Yeah.
So saying, and the other thing, I'm sure I probably got this from Melissa Urban, is saying I have enough, as much on my plate as I like at the moment. So not, I don't want to be, we'll talk about the kind of the Cartman drama triangle because this ties into it so well. I am not being the victim of I've got too much on my plate,
No,
I
no, no,
can't offer you
no.
the time. I simply don't want to.
Yeah, yeah,
It's simply not my responsibility. And there's certain things I do want to, but otherwise is actually that doesn't work for me right now. Thanks for
yeah,
the offer. I'll catch up with you when I can.
yeah,
And I
absolutely.
have to really be careful about the apologising. I'm really sorry I can't. I'm really sorry that doesn't work for me. Actually, I'm not sorry for protecting myself and my peace.
Absolutely. And I think um, I have a lot on. I have a lot on my
You
plate.
do. You have
And that's
enough.
fine.
You have
I
enough
have
of
enough on my
your
plate.
stuff on your plate without
Absolutely.
taking
I'm
anybody else's
happy
on.
with what's on my
Yeah.
plate. Very happy with what's on my
Yeah.
plate. There's a few annoyances that are on my plate, but that's life,
Yeah.
right? That's life. And it's only because I have a well balanced plate that I'm able to manage the annoyances.
Exactly.
If I had other things on my plate that I really didn't have capacity or space for, then my annoyances
Yeah.
wouldn't be managed, and I would bury my head in the sand. So I and last week I had something that I normally have on my plate that I wasn't able to manage. I had to say, I'm really sorry. I've just got to take this off my plate for a bit.
Yeah.
Um, it's not forever. Whereas before it would have been, fuck that, I'm not doing that
Yeah.
anymore.
So this stepping,
Cut it dead.
yeah, moving over towards like the drama triangle. For those that don't know the drama triangle, there's the rescuer role, there's the victim role, there's the persecutor role. And I realised when I read the book, I think it's Chris West's book of the Cartman drama triangle explained, I think it's called. And for me, that was life changing, right? Because I read that and realised that I was almost, I was 100% responsible for putting myself in certain roles of the rescuer, the go-to person of she will have a solution, and I
Yep,
kind of
that's me.
there's something to do a little bit with ego in that as well. Like,
Absolutely.
okay, well, I like being that person. To very quickly flipping it to the persecutor role of fuck's sake, just fucking leave me alone. Like, I've
Yeah,
got so much on. Why would you come to me? To then the victim. Why me?
yeah,
And I would rapidly cycle between
yeah,
these three roles. And then there's like the empowerment triangle, which is very much when we step out of that and just simply advocate for ourselves and our needs. Um,
yeah.
and yes,
And
we can still help
it's an
people.
uncomfortable position to be in.
It is really
It's so
uncomfortable.
uncomfortable at first.
Um, and again, in Feel the Fish, she talks about that swing of the pendulum
Yeah,
of the overcorrection. When we're used to being a people pleaser, we have this opposite and equal reaction the other way when we start setting boundaries. So it can seem very, very kind of unkind to start off with, and it feels incredibly uncomfortable. But we tend to find then a
well,
balance of
yeah,
how we can set boundaries in a comfortable way, in a clear but kind way. Before, I mean, for me, it was before I get to the point where I crack and I get really angry and I turn into a rage of like, no, I can't help you. Fucking leave me alone. I don't want this relationship anymore. It was more about, okay, if I set boundaries, then I can protect this relationship. And either those people accept it and that's great, this relationship grows and we can nurture it, or they don't. And I know that, okay, that's just a relationship of convenience for other people. And
yeah,
they are not relationships that I want.
yeah, definitely. It's tricky.
It's very tricky.
It's tricky, yeah.
Have you had anybody that's really kind of not responded to you setting boundaries?
Um, no, not really. I don't think so. Um, well, I mean, they've disappeared. That's
Yeah.
responding, right?
Yeah. I mean, when I think back to my own journey, right, like actually for me, I'm quite open about it with my groups and I have been on Instagram, is the fact that I was married for
Mm,
20 years. When I stopped drinking, it was very clear that my ex's mental health was really bad and the reason that he was drinking was very different from mine. And so I learned really quite quickly in setting boundaries. Um, but it meant that our relationship did not make it. So after 26 years together,
yeah,
we, he now no longer lives with us and he carries on his life. I was talking about it this morning as we were walking. the kids all had glowing like school reports, and I was like, it was really difficult to set those boundaries. It was awful. It felt like I was blowing the world apart. But in hindsight, it was completely the right thing to
Yeah.
do, because because he's carried on his life with drinking, and that's just escalated and escalated, and the kids are thriving, and so am I, and we had to protect our peace, our serenity, our nervous
Yeah.
systems were screaming at us to protect ourselves.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
it's definitely not easy at all, especially when you feel like you have to reset some relationships. And so often when we're drinking, we blindly, like, when we stop drinking, we wake up and we're like, how did I even get to this point? So
Yeah.
it's really, really resetting, and it feels incredibly uncomfortable, but it is definitely worth
Yeah.
it.
Absolutely. I think my kid's dad is probably the person who pushes the boundaries, because I've had to put some really very clear, like, he has so much stuff in my garage. 7 years after we split up, he had so much stuff. And last year I said to him, "You need to get it out within 48
Yeah,
hours." What? I was like, "It's up to you.
yeah,
You can. You don't even pay me maintenance. Never mind
yeah,
storage. You can get it out, or I'll get it out, and it'll just go on the front, and people can take what they want, and everything else go in the bin." And he came and got it, which was very surprised me. And I've had to put lots of boundaries in since, and he always pushes them. But I'm very clear. No, this is what needs to happen. This is what needs to happen. No, you can't phone up 5 minutes before you want to see your children and expect everyone to be free. We don't take keys out of our backs when you leave them after your 2 hours a week. No, you need to do this. He hates it. He
yeah.
absolutely hates it. But I am consistent and persistent with it.
Well, and we'll tie it back into those core values, right? Like um, when you have an awareness of what your leading values are, they're like your leading light in how you live your life. So
Yeah,
when you can live aligned to those, when you're setting boundaries, it feels so much easier, because there's not that dissonance between who I think
yeah,
I am and actually how I'm turning up for the world. It is, I'm
yeah,
not being unkind here. And I am aligned in making sure that my boys are a priority, and that I am a priority, and they are the only ones that matter. And my
yeah,
sobriety is a priority. Um,
absolutely.
this is definitely not about being unkind. Um, we haven't really talked about core values, and we will do. But Sarah, if I asked you what are your leading core values, top core values, what would you say?
Compassion, empathy, showing up for myself, and trust.
Okay,
Trust and respect probably go together.
okay. And how do you show yourself kindness and compassion, empathy?
Yeah, by living in a way that allows me to feel less shame, regret, and self-loathing, really, and acceptance of things that have been, and not living, trying not to live in a way that makes me look back on those times with negativity, but a way that says I have to be responsible and take account for what I did, and for playing my own role in what happened. But I can't change it. I don't need to change it. It just is. And I have to, all I can do is go forward and live my life in the way that I know now is better.
Yeah,
Um, and I think being, for me, being able to trust myself entirely, you know, that is such a huge shift for me, knowing that I can trust myself
yeah,
entirely. What I intend to do is what I'm going to do.
yeah, yeah.
That's it.
And that's a massive
That's it.
shift, right? Yeah.
Huge shift.
And that, again, that trust part ties so beautifully in with boundaries. I can trust myself that this is not about me stepping into that drama triangle. This is not about me being unkind. This is not about me. This is simply me trusting myself that this is what I need to do to protect my serenity, to ensure that I'm not putting myself in any position where I get into any kind of dysfunctional behavior or into any
Absolutely.
kind of putting myself at risk in any way.
Yeah,
And I can
absolutely.
trust myself in that.
And some of those, I'm still navigating kind of my life with this. And I've done phase one, and now I'm into phase two. So whatever that means, but that's how I feel like. How do I now navigate this relationships bit and all, and sex and sobriety and all those things? How do I do that without falling? Bearing in mind that I could become addicted to carrots
Yes.
if carrots serve me well,
Yeah.
right? If I got massive enjoyment out of carrots temporarily, that would be my new
Yeah.
addiction. So without saying, without kind of saying, so how do I make sure I'm able to do those things safely and in a way that doesn't then become all consuming uh, and unhealthy and negative? And so it's interesting. It's really interesting. I feel that, and I think we had this conversation in one of the groups a while ago, and it was like, should so I think I need to wait before I pursue any kind of relationship, anything, until I'm certain in my sobriety, because it's so true now. Because the person I was 8 months ago, just having found sobriety, and the person I am now is not the same. I mean, it sounds too dramatic, but there's so many things that I was prepared to accept and tolerate 8 months ago that absolutely
No.
not now. No, not
And,
not at all.
and
And so,
yeah. Go
you
on.
know, getting into a relationship with someone 8 months ago now, and if it was still the case now, it's like my goalposts would have completely have shifted, and it would have been like being with, I don't know, with two totally different
Yeah.
people, two totally different people. And I imagine that the further I go in my journey, that will be, I'm not at 5 years sober, right?
So it's interesting. Well, I mean, the sober dating again is worth a whole session on, but tying that in with our topic of boundaries, knowing what is okay for us, working out what is okay for us when we're dating and we're completely sober, what we're looking for in a partner, when it comes to their drinking and how we
I don't think
envision.
I could do it. Yeah, I don't think I could date a drinker.
No,
I really don't.
no, it's not.
And I think I had a conversation in a sober Facebook group, sober Facebook group, and I said to this guy was saying it. He was like trying to navigate it, and I said, "Oh no, I don't think I could date someone who was drinking." He went, "But we can't judge the drink. You can't judge people who are drinking." It's like, oh, hold on. Do you do some work on your boundaries? I was like, no, I didn't say I was judging them. I was just saying that it's not something that I'd
No,
be willing to accept. And I can remember last year I did start seeing this guy who was drinking, and I consciously thought, will the taste of the beer annoy me? Da, 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 da. And I thought it wouldn't. And quite quickly, I felt like saying to him, I think you've got a bit of a problem with alcohol.
but what I find really interesting, right, is that trust is one of your core values, and that trust in the person you're meeting every time. And it's only with sobriety, because believe me, I loved drinking and I never saw it when I was drinking. But the change in energy, the change in personality when people drink is ridiculous. 3 drinks, I reckon,
Yeah,
people change. So not being able to trust the person that you are with to be that kind of consistent person
consistent
and
person.
showing
Yeah,
up for you as that
yeah,
consistent person, it absolutely is something that's key when you're completely sober. Um,
yeah.
and it is really, yeah, it's where do you want, I mean, I'm looking at people that drink as well, it almost makes me on edge of like, okay, but are they searching for another drink now? Are they searching for another drink, or can they actually genuinely only have a drink or two. It puts me on edge, like looking at
Yeah.
their drinking.
Yeah. I don't want to, and like I said about that, being in, you know, oh, it's Friday night, I need to go out and get
Yeah.
hammered because I've had, I don't want to be in
I
that
like
existence.
it's Friday
I don't
night.
want to
I shall go
be.
to bed at 8. And I shall have a
Absolutely.
glorious evening, like on my own in the bed, like absolutely fantastic, and enjoy my pig
Glorious evening on your own in my bed.
in my bed.
Totally, totally.
I mean,
It's it's so true. I can remember coming home from work on evenings and being so absolutely exhausted, like so exhausted, having a bath, falling asleep in the bath, but still getting out of the bath, putting my
going out.
makeup on, getting dressed, and still going out. Being so exhausted and still going out, and then being out until 6 in the morning, and then by the time Monday comes, just so
Yeah.
exhausted. I think, God, how did I do it for so
Yeah.
long?
If anybody's going to come
How
and
did I
ruin your
do
peace
that?
and your, yeah, now that you can set those boundaries for yourself, of
Yeah,
actually a weekend is made for rest and recovery.
totally. I think I went to bed at 8:43
I
on Friday
I
night.
mean, I woke up on Saturday morning. I'd had 9.5 hours
Yeah,
solid sleep,
yeah.
and
I
got
didn't
up for
see
a workout.
8:45 on
Yeah,
Friday
I
night.
think I
Yeah,
did too. I was
yeah,
just like, this is exactly what I want. Um,
yeah.
and it's not boring at all, because feeling really good and smug, not smug, there is a certain amount of smugness.
No, smug.
Yeah, it
I
is.
feel smug.
It's like,
I feel
I
smug.
like feel, I don't know, get up, hangover free.
It's
It's absolutely
beautiful.
amazing. Had a workout, had a nice walk, potted in the garden. Like, oh, I get to do this. I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything. That setting those boundaries for myself is so important. Of, okay, yeah, I can
Absolutely.
do this. Um, uh,
My body needs this. I'm doing
yeah,
it.
I wanted to just touch on something that you just kind of mentioned. I was looking through my notes. I am an exercise specialist for addictions and recovery, people in addictions and recovery as well. And this is one of the things that I hadn't read anywhere else in all the different courses that I'd done. But the stages of recovery, I'm not sure if you ever heard of this. You kind of just touched on it a little bit. Abstinence. Apparently, abstinence lasts up to 2 years. Okay.
Wow.
So in that time, the patient accepts that they have an addiction, understands that there's a huge risk of relapse in that time, looks for connection and help with other groups, must navigate social situations, must deal with symptoms of withdrawal. As we talked about like before, symptoms of withdrawal aren't just for those, with
No,
real
absolutely.
active addiction. That's
Yeah.
those of us, the grey area drinkers. Must start to view themselves as a non-user and practice self-care. So yeah, common causes of reoccurrence in this stage are the cravings and withdrawal symptoms, and actually not truly accepting that they have an addiction or alcohol use disorder,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
actually was me for 15 years of, yeah,
Totally. Totally.
I absolutely
That,
don't have an issue, so I don't need to stop drinking. Um,
yeah.
the repair phase, the early stage,
Mm.
lasts 2 to 3 years. Okay. And common causes of reoccurrence in this stage are poor self care and the avoidance of actually connecting with peer support groups. I can do this on my own. I don't need anybody to do it with me. Um, after those 3-4 years is the growth, the ongoing recovery. Um, and common causes of reoccurrence are that they are past the addiction and they
Yeah.
reduce the using of tools and the avoidance of peer support groups. So for anybody that
Yeah.
thought that sobriety is like, oh, I can give up for a few days, a few weeks, a few months, and then I've nailed it,
Mm.
like ongoing recovery
Mm.
is, as you said, the person you are now is not the same person you were 8 months ago.
Yeah.
And that kind of recovery, whether we deem ourselves, we think of ourselves, we label ourselves as being in recovery, I think everybody is, from behaviors of people pleasing, of
Yeah.
taking everything on, of stepping into that drama triangle, of trauma, whatever it is. Um, so it's
Yeah.
it's work.
It is. is the work. It's so the
Yeah.
work. It's really, I think it's so fundamental to the journey that you've got to explore that stuff. You've got to really examine yourself, and you know, it's a real kind of, it's two things going on. You in sobriety, you're really. I was when I first stopped. I was like, I still wanted to go out. I still wanted to make those connections. I still wanted to do this, but I didn't want to drink. I didn't want to party. So therefore, I went out and I didn't do the drinking, didn't do the partying, but I still went out. So bored. And on the other, so I don't want to be isolated. I still want to connect. I still want to do all of these things. But on the other hand, you can't do all those. You can't do the work if you're still doing
Yeah.
those things. But the work means that you do feel a bit isolated. So you do feel a bit lonely, and you do,
Yeah.
So you kind of, and that's why that it's so important that we have to make that mindset shift of I am not taking anything away from myself.
And that we get to do this work.
Absolutely, yeah, exactly. I could have lived my life in the way I was living it, had lived it for so long, never doing the work.
Yeah.
Would I have been a terrible person? Absolutely not. Would I have carried on drinking and partying? Yes, I probably would have done. Would I have got myself into a deeper pit than I was already feeling I was in? Absolutely. But I wouldn't have been a terrible
No.
person. It would just have been. It would just have been. And I would be laying on my deathbed, early deathbed probably, thinking, oh, I've had fun. My life has been fun. Look at all those times I got totally twatted. Fun. Great. But now I've seen the other side of that. And I've got better relationships with my children. I have an exceptionally better relationship with
Yeah.
myself. And I am able to do the things I do now around kind of community stuff. I was doing then, but there's days I wouldn't turn up for it. There's times that I would drag myself after a night out of bed, go and get the food, come back, stick it outside of the cupboard, ignore the people outside, just, and I'd come back into bed again and feel absolutely
Yeah.
terrible. Now I do it, and I do it with, I've got energy and I've got space for it, and I can have a conversation, and
Yeah.
I do it with joy. And I was doing it before because I felt that I needed to do those things, because I felt like that's the things that really made me happy, and they did make me happy, but only happy through I'm really tired and hungover
Yeah.
lens. Now I'm like, oh my god, this makes
Yeah.
me really happy. Oh my god,
A
this is
completely
real
present,
altruism.
mindful.
This is, I really want to do this. Yeah, exactly. And the, it's so important to do that
Yeah.
work. It's just absolutely important. If you don't do the work, you're
Yeah.
just not drinking, I think.
Yeah. And goes back to the
You're just not
idea.
drinking.
Yeah. That's where we hold resentment for our sobriety. It's
Yeah.
where we come from a place of deprivation rather than abundance of everything that we gain in sobriety. And who wants to do that? Like, what fun is it to feel like we are depriving ourselves
Living
of
that
anything?
out,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I think for me, the key was that when I first stopped drinking, I would say, I can't, or something like, oh, I've told you I'm not drinking. I can't drink, or told you. Now I'm just like, no, I'll just have something else, please. I know I'm not, I haven't got a good relationship with alcohol. Like, it's that acceptance. And I can remember the first time I said, I mean, I still struggle with the word alcoholic, just because it's so kind of damning in a
yeah.
sense, right? People have this perception of it, like you've got a bottle of vodka under your mattress. But I was an alcoholic. I am an alcoholic. I cannot have a healthy relationship with
Yeah.
alcohol. And I remember the first time I said that, I couldn't get the words out of my mouth. I just was crying. I couldn't get the words out of my mouth because of this shame and fear and all those things that, and my rock bottom was not as rocky as other people's rock bottoms. But for me, it was my rock bottom.
Yeah.
It was for
Yeah.
me. That's what it looked like. And so I have to try and remember all the time, like on the Friday when I was like, God, I want to feel, and I knew it was stupid. I want to feel the same sense of relief that they think they're going to get, knowing that tomorrow, on Saturday morning, I would wake up feeling absolutely fucking amazing, and they would either still be out or not wake up feeling amazing,
Yeah.
but still that kind of, and I have to remind myself all the time, this, you've chosen this, you know this is beautiful, you know that you're going to get nothing from drinking that pint.
And so, again, two things. One, the next step on that is to because you're recognizing what you're wanting to get from that drink. The next step on from that is, how do I get that from something that's not alcohol? How do I actually self-soothe in this moment when I do just want to fucking numb out? What does that look like to me? And
It looks like music to
yeah.
me. I know what it looks like. I can do that.
So
Not
it's
sitting in a
actually
pub
true.
garden.
Are you
Headphones
brilliant?
in. Hold on a minute.
Yeah. Boundaries. And I mean, I know we're going to have to sign off in a second because I've got my
Yeah.
group call, but my last thing is really that occasionally, like, the kids have said to me, oh, you can't drink. And I always go back to this. I can drink. I absolutely can
Yeah.
choose to drink. I choose not to drink because
Yeah.
I know too much. I know of everything that comes with that. And I still stand by that in my groups when people say, oh, I just want to be able to drink. Everyone can. You can
Yeah.
choose to drink and you can choose to live with the consequences that come with it. That's what we're doing. We're at a
Yeah.
choice point every time. And
Absolutely.
we can take this path where we know where it goes, or we can take this path and see where it goes.
Yeah.
I can choose every day. Every day I can go, oh, actually, I can
Absolutely.
drink, but I know where that will lead me. So every day is a choice
Yeah.
of absolutely not. And
Yeah.
I do the work that comes with that with kind of with acceptance and with gratitude of, I get to do this.
Totally. Totally. I get to be who I am
Yeah.
today.
Yeah. Which,
And I'm really happy about that.
exactly. Why would we not be happy with
I'm really
where we
happy
are
about
today?
that. Do you know what I mean? I'm really happy. I'm really happy that it's Sunday afternoon, the sun is out. I'm not sitting in a beer garden getting pissed. I'm really happy about that.
Yeah, amazing. Right, thank you
Yeah.
very much, Sarah. And for anyone that would like any more support, by all means, reach out to either Sarah and I, or you can check out the website, sobriety.sisterhood.com.
Do it.
Yes, do it. Come
Do
and
it.
join the dark side or the light side. And we will be back next week, probably talking about core values or sober dating, or if you have anything else that you would like us to cover, just reach out and we will do that too. But Sarah,
Well,
I'll speak
see
to
you
you
later.
soon. Take care. Bye.
Take care. Bye.